I never thought my wedding day would be the beginning of my biggest heartbreak. I still remember standing there, dressed in white, heart pounding with excitement, thinking I was about to marry the man who would love me forever. Little did I know, his eyes had never truly been on me. They had always been on my sister. I was blind back then, too in love, too trusting. Ethan was everything I had ever wanted. Handsome, smart, charming. Everyone said we were the perfect match. Everyone except him. Every smile he gave me felt real. Every word of love he whispered felt true. And for the longest time, I believed it. I believed I was enough for him. I believed we were happy. But deep down, a small voice kept asking, why did it always feel like he was looking at someone else, even when he was holding me? It wasn't until much later, too late, that I found out the truth. I found the letters first, hidden in a box, at the back of his closet. Old letters, worn from being read too many times. They weren't addressed to me, they were for her. My sister, Amelia, the golden girl, the one everyone adored, including my husband. At first, I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe it was just a mistake from the past, a silly crush he had forgotten long ago. But then I started noticing the little things, how his eyes would light up when Amelia visited, how his laughter came easier around her, how his hands, so tender, with me once, had grown cold and distant. I started remembering all the moments I had brushed off. The awkward silences, the way he flinched when I touched him, the empty way he said, I love you. Still, I stayed. I loved him too much to let go. I told myself love was sacrifice, that if I tried harder, if I became better, he would finally see me, choose me. But you can't force a heart to beat for someone it doesn't love. And I was nothing more than a replacement for the girl he truly wanted. It wasn't just the betrayal that broke me. It was the humiliation, the realization that everyone around me had seen it, had pitied me, while I lived in my perfect little illusion. Even Amelia, my own sister, she never said a word, never once warned me. She just smiled, sweet and fake, and let me walk straight into a nightmare. In the end, it wasn't a grand betrayal that ended us. It was the slow, painful death of something that was never real to begin with. Ethan left me one rainy afternoon, his bags packed, his goodbye as cold as his love had always been. No explanations, no apologies, just a look that said it all. I was never the one. After he left, I fell apart. I spent months curled up in bed, reliving every moment, every lie. I hated them, him, her, myself. I hated the way I had given everything and received nothing. I hated the way I had trusted, loved, believed. I wanted to disappear, to erase every trace of the foolish girl who thought love was enough. But fate had other plans. The night I hit rock bottom, something changed. One moment I was crying in the dark, wishing I could go back and do it all differently. The next, I was waking up. 7 years earlier, back to the day Ethan proposed. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but as the hours passed, reality sank in. This was real. I had been given a second chance, a chance to rewrite everything, to change my fate. This time, I wouldn't be the foolish, lovesick girl who clung to a man who never loved her. This time, I would choose myself. The first thing I did was simple. I said no. Ethan knelt there, holding out the ring, looking so sure of himself, so certain of my answer, and I smiled, gentle and calm. As I told him I wasn't ready, I needed time. I watched the confusion flash across his face, the first crack in his perfect mask. It felt good, it felt right, but that was only the beginning. Changing the future wasn't going to be easy. Amelia was still the golden girl, still the star of every room she entered. My parents still adored her, still expected me to be the quiet, obedient one who made no trouble. And Ethan, he still hovered nearby, still so charming, still so dangerous to my heart if I let him in. But I wasn't that naive girl anymore. This time, I paid attention to the small betrayals, the subtle manipulations, to the way Amelia would sweetly undermine me, make me doubt myself, to the way Ethan would look past me, even when he was smiling right at me. I saw it all now, and I smiled through it. They thought I was the same. They thought I would fall into the same traps. But they didn't know. I had already lived this life once before, and I wasn't going to lose again. I started making quiet changes, choosing different paths, pursuing dreams I had once given up for Ethan, building a life that was mine, and mine alone. And as I grew stronger, I saw the cracks forming in the perfect world they had built. I saw Ethan growing restless, confused, Amelia growing jealous, insecure. For the first time, they were the ones losing control. But even as I carved out a new life, a better life, a small part of me couldn't forget the pain, couldn't forgive the betrayal. Part of me still wanted them to hurt the way I had hurt, to understand what it felt like to be discarded, unseen, unloved, and maybe, just maybe, I would get my chance. Because fate wasn't done with any of us yet, and this time, the ending would be mine to write. The days that followed were harder than I expected. Changing my fate wasn't just about saying no to Ethan's proposal. It was about rebuilding who I was, from the ground up. Every decision felt like walking on thin ice, careful, deliberate, knowing one wrong move could send me crashing back into the same old heartbreak. I started with the little things. I stopped trying to please everyone. I stopped letting Amelia's opinions shape my choices. I began speaking up, even when my voice trembled. I enrolled in courses I had once abandoned because Ethan didn't think they were practical enough. I spent more time with friends I had once pushed away because he preferred I stayed home. I carved out a life outside of him, outside of anyone's shadow. Of course, my changes didn't go unnoticed. Ethan tried harder at first. It was almost funny, watching him scramble to pull me back into the role I was supposed to play. He sent flowers, left sweet messages, took me on fancy dates, flashing that same perfect smile. But behind his charm, I could see it now. The cracks, the calculation. It wasn't love. It was possession. I was slipping away and he couldn't stand it. Amelia noticed too. At first, she pretended to be supportive, congratulating me on my new confidence. But her compliments were too sweet, too polished. And when she thought I wasn't looking, I caught the glances, the irritation, the unease. She liked being the star. She liked me living in her shadow, without me quietly fading beside her. She wasn't shining as brightly. I thought distancing myself would be enough. I thought if I just lived my life, built something of my own, they would leave me alone. I was wrong. One evening, after a long day at work, I found Ethan waiting outside my apartment. He smiled, holding out a small velvet box. "I know you said you needed time," he said softly, "but I can't imagine my life without you." Inside the box was a ring, bigger, flashier, more desperate than before. A year ago, I might have cried tears of joy. Now I just felt a hollow ache. I looked at him, really looked, and realized he wasn't asking because he loved me. He was asking because he was losing control. Because Amelia had started dating someone new, someone richer, someone Ethan could never compete with. And suddenly, he wanted me again. Not for love, for pride. I closed the box gently, handing it back to him. "I'm not the girl you think I am anymore, Ethan," I said. my voice steady. For a second, I saw a flicker of anger in his eyes before he covered it up with that practiced charm. He didn't give up though, neither did Amelia. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. Rumors at work, invitations withdrawn, opportunities slipping away without explanation. It didn't take long to figure out where it was coming from. Amelia had always known how to ruin someone without getting her own hands dirty. But what they didn't realize was that I was ready for them this time. I stayed quiet. I didn't confront them. I let them believe they were winning. Meanwhile, I made my moves quietly. I partnered with a friend to start a small business I had always dreamed of, a dream Ethan once mocked as unrealistic. I built connections, real ones, with people who valued me for who I was, not whose sister I was. I began creating a life that no rumor, no whispered lie could destroy. Still, it hurt. There were nights I lay awake, anger and sadness twisting inside. Me, I wanted to scream. I wanted to march up to Amelia and tell her I knew what she was doing. I wanted to show Ethan exactly how little he mattered now. But revenge would only chain me to the past, and I was done living in a past that never loved me. Still, fate has a way of bringing the past back, whether you want it or not. It happened at a charity gala, the same kind of glittering event Amelia thrived in, where appearances meant everything. I wasn't planning to attend, but my friend insisted. It was a great opportunity for our growing business. I walked into the ballroom in a simple, elegant dress. No frills, no armor, just me, standing tall in a room that once would have made me shrink, and there they were. Ethan, standing near the bar, a drink in hand, scanning the room with restless eyes, and Amelia, laughing too brightly at the center of a circle of admirers. Wearing a gown that screamed for attention, they both saw me at the same time. For a moment, the world seemed to still. Ethan's smile froze. Amelia's laughter caught in her throat. I didn't rush over. I didn't shrink away. I smiled, calm and steady, and turned my attention back to my friend, as if they were just two strangers at a crowded party. But I could feel their eyes on me the whole night. Later, when I stepped out onto the balcony for a breath of fresh air, Ethan found me. His steps were heavy, his voice low and urgent. "You've changed," he said, almost accusing. I had to. I replied simply. He reached for me then, desperation flashing across his face. "We can still make this work," he said. I made mistakes, but we belong together. For a heartbeat, I saw the boy I had once loved, the boy I had cried for, broken myself for. But he was just a ghost now, and I wasn't going to haunt myself with him any longer. "I don't belong to anyone but myself," I said quietly. Before he could say another word, a new voice cut through the night. "You should listen to her, Ethan," Amelia said, stepping into the light, her smile sharp and poisonous. "She's finally smart enough to realize she's not first choice. She never was." The words hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch, not this time. I turned to Amelia, meeting her gaze without fear. "You're right," I said, smiling. "I was never your competition." Confusion flickered in her eyes. "Because I was never playing your game." The air between us crackled, with all the years of buried hurt, of silent battles, fought behind polite smiles. And in that moment, standing between the two people who had once broken me, I realized something powerful. I had already won. They just didn't know it yet. As the words hung in the air, I felt a strange calm wash over me. Amelia's smirk faltered, and Ethan's face twisted with disbelief. They couldn't understand. After all this time, they couldn't see what had changed. For the longest time, I had believed I was incomplete without their approval, their affection, their validation. But standing there, with both of them, for the first time, I felt free. It wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about reclaiming my life. Amelia took a step forward, her expression no longer as confident as before. "You think you've won, don't you?" she sneered, trying to regain her composure. "You think you can just walk away and pretend nothing happened?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her words felt hollow, just like everything she had ever said to me. I could see the insecurity flickering in her eyes now, the cracks in the perfect facade she had worked so hard to maintain. It wasn't about love for her. It was about control, about keeping me in the shadows. She thought I would always stay there, but I was done with shadows. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, his gaze flicking from me to Amelia, unsure of where to stand anymore. His carefully constructed walls of charm were starting to crumble. "Sophia," he said softly, voice quieter than before, "I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt you." I met his gaze, finally seeing the truth in his eyes. The years of lies, of manipulation, of using me as a pawn to get to Amelia. It was all clear now. There was no love in his heart. There never had been. There was only a twisted need to possess, to claim, to win. "You didn't hurt me, Ethan," I said, my voice steady. "You helped me find myself." I could see the shock in his eyes. He wasn't used to this version of me, the version that no longer needed his approval, no longer craved his affection. He looked like a man who had just lost everything he thought he had. And maybe, for a moment, he realized that I had never been his to control in the first place. The tension between us was palpable, but I wasn't afraid anymore. The weight of my past, of all the pain and suffering they had put me through, had finally lifted. I wasn't broken. I was stronger than I had ever been. Amelia, desperate now, tried one last time. "You don't know what you're doing, Sophia. You're making a huge mistake." Her voice trembled, with something between anger and fear. She was no longer the confident woman who once thought she had it all. She was just a woman trying to hold on to something slipping through her fingers. I shook my head. "No, Amelia, I'm not making a mistake. I'm finally making my own choices." The truth of it hit her harder than anything else. Amelia, who had lived her life pretending to be the perfect, untouchable figure, was now faced with the reality of her own insecurities. She couldn't control me anymore, couldn't manipulate me into playing the role she had cast me in. And it terrified her. With one last glance at Ethan, who was still looking at me with a mix of guilt and confusion, I turned away. I didn't need to say anything more. There was nothing left to prove. They could go on with their lives, pretending everything was fine, pretending they had won. But I had already won. I had found myself. Over the next few weeks, everything shifted. Amelia distanced herself from me, unsure of how to handle the change. Ethan, too, fell into silence, his attempts to draw me back becoming more desperate. But I had built a new life, one where their voices no longer held power over me. I focused on my business, on my friends, on the life I was creating for myself. I began to see how much I had been holding myself back, how much I had let them define me. And then, something unexpected happened. One evening, as I sat at my favorite cafe, sipping coffee and enjoying a moment of peace, I saw a familiar face. Across the room, it was him. Not Ethan, not Amelia, but someone else. Someone I had known long ago. Someone who had always believed in me. I felt a smile tug at the corners of my mouth. The past wasn't over, but it had changed. It wasn't just the people who had once held my fate in their hands. It was me. I was the one who had the power to change my life. He walked over, a smile of recognition on his face. "Sophia," he said, his voice warm. "I'm glad I found you." For the first time, I felt no fear, no need to explain myself, no regrets. Just the quiet assurance that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. In that moment, I realized that the story wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about winning over Ethan or Amelia. It was about reclaiming my own narrative, finding my own worth, and choosing a future that was entirely mine. And as the door to that new chapter opened, I stepped through it, ready for whatever came next, because I had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the greatest victory is simply choosing to live for yourself.